So I guess we'll keep it moving.
Hey everyone, Path here. Now, one of the basic assumptions that the theories of both special relativity and general relativity make is that the speed of light is constant, the same, for all observers. If I were to measure the speed of light, it would end up being roughly
Red
3 times 10 to the
and
power of
blue.
8 meters per second, which we call
Specifically
c.
radio
But
and
if a
gamma.
person were to drive past me shining a flashlight out of the window of their car, then I
Other
would
than the
still measure the
approximation,
beam of
I
light
mean, we're not
coming from
really
their
catching
flashlight
light, but
as
you can catch a
moving at
radio
3 times
signal.
10 to the power of 8 meters per second, and so would they.
That's how we know
This
it's constant.
is different to how most other objects
'Cause it's
behave
not.
in our universe, and it leads to some rather interesting consequences, some of which I've discussed on this channel, and of course there are lots of other brilliant YouTube videos on this topic as well. But an interesting question we can ask is, why are the theories of relativity built on this weird assumption, which back then there was no way to confirm? Well, that's because there were clues pointing to this being
It's
the case.
visible
and
in a
we'll be looking at
photon?
one of those clues in
Yeah,
this
well,
video.
that's what.
So, one such
That's
clue
where this
was
gets
from
a
the
little
theory
tricky.
of electromagnetism. This is the study of electric and magnetic fields as well as electromagnetic waves. And quite
And I
frankly,
wish I
this
could
theory
make
of
money off of this
electromagnetism
stuff.
was doing a
Get
fantastic
me
job
wrong.
of explaining
It is
how
constant.
electric fields and
It
magnetic
really
fields
is,
and
but
electromagnetic
it's
waves
got
worked. But one thing that it
some
predicted
charm.
was that electromagnetic waves should travel at a constant speed, independent of who was measuring it. So any observer, regardless of what speed they were
I don't really
traveling
think
at
I'm the
relative
same
to
kind of
anything
teacher
else, the
part of
speed of
this.
light in the theory of
It's constant,
electromagnetism
but
was thought to be constant. Now that constant happened
Well,
to be equal
does
to
my
this
crew
quantity
get him?
here, 1 divided by the square root of epsilon naught mu naught. So let's take a look at what epsilon naught and mu naught
infinity,
actually are. But
limitless
before we do, if
infinity,
you're enjoying
and
this
the
video
mu,
so far,
the
please do
muon.
hit the thumbs up button
Well,
and subscribe
that's
for more
a
fun
totally
physics
different
content.
animal on
Okay, so
constants
epsilon
around
naught and
here.
mu naught are
The
both
new mu
properties
on
of
everything
empty
isn't just
space, or of a
Fermilab, you know what I
vacuum.
mean? You will
Epsilon
see
naught is often
mu
known as the
in a
vacuum
lot.
permittivity, and mu naught is often known as the vacuum permeability.
But that is
Let's
true. That
focus
is
on
true.
epsilon naught
Often
first.
as the
Epsilon
vacuum
naught is a
permittivity,
measure of how
the
well
flicker
electric
and the
fields
muon.
can permeate
It's that
through empty
vacuum
space. Now
permeability.
that idea is
It's
nice
to say it
to
is a
imagine, but it's
vacuum,
not very practical
should be
mathematically.
zero
So another way to think
temperature.
about this is
These
the
are
following.
lasers
Here is
with
the
negative
equation that tells
Kelvin
us the
that
electric force
drops the
exerted by
temperature
two
to
charged
below
particles on each other. If the charges on
Kelvin,
these
absolute
particles
zero.
are Q1
That's what
and
you can do
Q2,
that with lasers.
they're separated by a distance r.
With that
in
being
a
said,
vacuum. This is known
there's
as
on the
Coulomb's law,
trajectory,
but one thing we
Clink,
can ask is, why do these particular
not
charges exert
perfectly
this
masked.
exact
And I
force?
could say
Why is it not
this has an
slightly
area.
stronger or slightly
This
weaker,
wave function
even
has
for
a
these exact
spike.
charges,
This one
exact
does as
same
well.
distance apart from each
For
other?
those two things
Well,
to
one way
be
to
in the
think
same
about it is that the
position at
size
the
of
same
this force
time
is
is a
determined by
polarized
epsilon
function.
naught. If this was any
If you
bigger,
start to
the
slide
force
in a
would be
filter
smaller.
to
If
that,
epsilon naught
let's
was
say
smaller,
an
the
angle,
force would
a
be
curve,
bigger.
ramping up the
Epsilon naught
speed.
is a property of the vacuum. And as it turns out, this is the
And you see
value
the
it
mu,
happens to
you
have in our
should
universe.
use Fermilab.
Similarly, mu naught, the permeability of free space,
That would be their
determines how
9.8 meters
magnetic
per
fields
second by
behave
8
in a
point
vacuum.
whatever.
If we imagine two current-carrying wires, each of which carries a current
This is
I,
Earth, this
and
is
they're
Fermilab.
separated by a distance r in a vacuum, then we can use this as a convenient way of understanding mu naught. This is because current-carrying wires generate their own magnetic field, which in turn exerts a force on moving charges, such as the moving charges in the other wire. We can calculate the force exerted by the wires on each other
Definitely right
per
on here.
unit length. Let's say
Except
this
for there
is
would be
1 unit length
a
of
1
wire,
degree
maybe
curve
1 meter.
here.
Well, then the
Right.
force exerted is given by this
Zero
expression
spin
here.
black hole
As we
right
can
here.
see, the force
4
obviously
pi,
depends on the
not
current
8
within
pi.
the wire as well as the distance between the wires. But it also depends on the permeability of free space. It is this parameter
This is a zero
that
spin
determines
black
the
hole,
strength of
is
the
what it
magnetic
is.
force
When
in
I
any
started
given
to add
scenario.
Bernoulli's,
And so the speed of
8,
light,
that's
an
going to have some
electromagnetic
spin.
wave, has
Not only is
something
that,
to do
but you can
with
change
the
those
ability of
values.
electric and
3,
magnetic
like
fields
N1,
to
N2,
permeate through
Mn.
empty space through a vacuum. How appropriate, right? And it's worth noting, by the way, that this only applies in a vacuum. There is a slightly different equation for when we're
Hydrogen
talking about
decays
other
into
media, such as
iron.
air or
And I mean,
water,
it
and the speed
when I
of
say
light does
decays,
change in these
it only
other
has one
media,
electron.
but the
How
equation
can
that we
it
require
decay?
for those scenarios is actually not much more
Fusion.
complicated. All we have
Combinations
to do
of
is to include
fusion
something
up
about
to
the
helium,
properties
helium
of
and
the media
hydrogen.
we're
Any
considering.
free
And
electrons
of course, when
floating
we
in there
happen to
make
consider an
collisions.
electromagnetic wave
Within
traveling
that
through air,
spectrum,
then the difference in speeds
some things
between
are stable,
air and vacuum
some things
is
are
not
not.
very big at all. So much so that
Not
we
to
can
say
ignore
that
the
those
difference
things that aren't
entirely,
stable
and we just
aren't
treat it
things,
as traveling at the
durium
speed
and
of light
tritium,
in vacuum.
but they're
Unless, of course, we want to do some really high
essentially
precision
in the
calculations.
approximation
But so
of the
what we're
vacuum.
seeing
We can't
here is
really
that
get
the
it
theory of
without
electromagnetism
massive
predicted that the speed of light was a constant
energy costs
related
and
to the
systems.
properties of empty space. It had nothing to
Now,
do with who was measuring it, or how fast they were
The
traveling.
the
And
bit
with
that's
all
here,
of
we
that being
should
said,
put
I'm
some
going to
stuff
finish
up here
here,
for
just a
math.
short one for
It
today.
certainly
I
does.
quickly wanted to mention that I have some
It's the
merch
nature
out now,
of,
since some
well,
of you
why
have been
this is
asking.
right,
It's
Fermilab
based on
is
a
wrong,
quantum
why
dice
Fermilab
design that I had
is
really
wrong,
a
and
lot
this
of
guy's
fun creating.
right.
If you'd like to support this channel by
Parthier.
getting some merch, then please do check out the
That's,
store tab
you're
on
gonna
the
get
channel
really
page.
good
As always, I
with
really
living
appreciate all
in
of your
that
support, all
pocket,
of your kind
dealing with
words
the
and so on.
pressure and
If you enjoyed
stress,
this video, please do hit the
magnetism,
thumbs up button
EM,
and subscribe
gravity,
for more fun physics content. Thank you
because
so
you
much for
didn't
watching
put
as
something up
always,
here.
and I will see
Because
you
it
very
wasn't
soon.
just